And the reason why I say consistency to me is where he like made his name, is because that's the thing about Froggen, is that I think he has to be one of the best players I've ever seen when his teams aren't that great, and when his teams are like in a loss, and when the game's not going well. And so as much as people will criticize his style of play, or whether he was playing the most efficient mid lane style, what I always respected about him was he was the ultimate embodiment of like play your own style. And so within any game, you see it even now in Echo Fox, which is obviously a very extreme example compared to when he was on amazing teams. If in games, okay, they might not always win the game, but it's like if there was any way he could give himself a chance with that champion and with that matchup to win, he'll find a way to get to that point. Like he'll find a way in a team fight to be useful without having to get a load of kills to make up for someone else in another lane feeding, you know. I think it's just one of the best I've ever seen at like modeling the game based on his skill set, you know, not based on whatever's the most OP at the time. Are we forgetting what happened in Season 4? So in the summer season, Alliance had a winning record against every single team in the league, including in the playoffs. And Xpeke was there with all of those great players that won titles with him. He had Reckless, he had Soaz, he had all those guys who were his like Hall of Fame teammates. Froggen smashed them. And Froggen was the best player in the whole league. And I think that season he got something like wins on like 9 or 10 champions, including Anivia, which wasn't even a meta champion anywhere in the world. I think even Faker famously like started trying to play it for like a few games, and I saw some interview where he said like, yeah, I think Froggen uses these runes. It was like, all right, even Koreans take notice of that. So what, you don't think he was good in Season 4? What do you remember of Froggen during this point in time?
Froggen was absolutely a monster. It was disgusting. Like we would play scrims and everybody on the team would die, and then Froggen would penta. Like, every single time, it was just like, if Froggen was up, like, we were screwed. Like, if we didn't find a pick on Froggen, it's game over. He was just like a monster. He carried that team so hard. But I think, like, everybody else helped him to carry the team. It's kind of like Bjergsen in a way. I think that because they funneled a lot of resources into him, he was able to get to that position, but like when he got into that position, he executed it better than anyone else. It was literally just watching Froggen 1v5 every game.
When people criticize him, they always try and make it sound like, oh, he's just like a boring player. He just sits there. All he wants to do is farm. Doesn't care about ever going for a solo kill. What's it actually like to play against him just in the lane?
No, like in the lane, he plays a good lane phase, I think. His lane phase is good, because if he gets more farm than you and you don't kill him, it means he wins lane phase. But he will still go for kills if you let him. Like, he's not like he punishes mistakes just as any other mid would punish mistakes, I think.
Who was Froggen when you first met him? Did you actually know he was a good player?
I think actually my earliest memory, and I'm not sure, but I asked him one time. I remember Season 1 being camped by a duo queue that came from Europe Northeast to West, and they would play Nunu top or a top lane with a Nunu jungle, and they would camp the living shit out of you all the time, constantly. And apparently one of those guys was Froggen, and then later he moved into Anivia only. And I was actually annoyed because I was almost an exclusively Anivia player as well. So like the few tournaments I did play in, as like I subbed one time for Fnatic in a Go for LoL semifinal. That was like my peak of my amateur career, and or in the final too. And I played Anivia all the time. Like I've like over 1,000 games of Anivia like Season 1. So I was annoyed at Froggen because he came by and he obviously was better at the champion. So there was my one claim to glory had gone by. I think personally, Froggen's the type of player that will finish his wave, then maybe start moving, or be like, has the mentality of cross mapping. Oh, I can't get there in time to help, likely, in all the scenarios over time. Therefore, it's better for me to clear this wave and go for this empty wolf camp and at least even that out. You know, a plus for me, a minus for them, still equals out. And even on like certain assassins, like even like when I watch his stream sometimes, like, okay, you can't judge from that, right? Because it's him having fun. Yeah. But I think that's one of his flaws, where he just wants too much at once, and he's not willing to sacrifice enough to roam and like help out the team or initiate plays that could maybe set him behind down the run, because he knows if he's even, he will get ahead, if that makes sense. And that is one of the flaws I think Froggen has. But overall, I don't think he's bound to any meta. I I think one of the reasons Evil Geniuses suffered, even though Froggen played Assassins, is because when you play Assassin comps again, you know, you end up split pushing. Like, they're not team fighters, right? We ended up team fighting with Assassins, and then it's probably not the best idea in the world. So, yeah. But yeah, if that's one flaw, I would give to Froggen instead. But I think he could easily like make it back into like mids. Like, if you watch him play, like, he's smart enough. Like, he understands all the matchups. He's one of the few players that can play a champion that he hasn't played very often before and be good at it. That's when I know like he was a better player than me, because when I play a champion I haven't played in ages, like, I feed my ass off. Like, I went to Riot Dinu, but I had to play with like entry-level players that went like just joined Riot, and I picked a champion I never played before, and I fed against like a gold player in mid. Okay. Arguably, you know, I wasn't playing serious, and arguably I had different gear, but like, that should never happen.
It's still embarrassing, right?
Yeah, Froggen would never feed there, right? So I have a lot of respect for people like Faker that could just play like any champions. Like, okay, list me the kit. Okay, I've seen this used against me. I have a rough idea of the cooldowns. Okay, let's play it.
So now that you're retired, okay, you're not going to have to play these guys. Before, listen, I know as a competitive, you're someone who's like competitive, and also if you're someone who's like confident, you have to be like, listen, I'm going to be the best. Like, I could beat this guy. But listen, you're not going to play them now, so now you can just give me like the real deal on some of these guys. So if I just ask you generally, I'll ask like a category, and you tell me which EU mid laner would fit into this one, okay?
Okay.
So think of all the great EU mid laners in history.
Okay.
Who was the hardest to play against?
Froggen.
Why?
Because he's really smart. He's very annoying to play against. He created the mid lane meta of control, you know? You had Shushe, you had me, you had even Reginald, which we like to flash in, like make plays, even with Cardos or whatever. We flash in and do a lot of stuff, you know? That's why we love to play. Like a lot of aggressive play, boom, boom. We don't care about minions, we just kill you, you know? And then Froggen appeared, and Froggen has such a smart way of playing. Like, he knows you will come. He knows you're predictable. So he goes back, he sidesteps, then he gets the creep, then he maybe hits you, or maybe he doesn't even hit you, but then 10 minutes into the game, you see he's 15 CS ahead. And then there's no go back. There's no go back. 15 CS ahead is a lot of gold when you go by. And there's no go back. It's really that simple. Vision control, they win the game slowly. They created the slowly winning the game meta. They created that, legit. Like, Froggen has created that meta. Froggen is the mid laner that the most skilled. No. The smartest mid laner that has ever played this game.
Looking back, it's like people always say I'm control mage and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, I was the one that started playing assassins in the first place, which sounds pretty odd. I mean, if you don't count in Shusei's Evelyn in season 2 at Gamescom versus Gambit, which was pretty, Moscow 5 at the time, which was pretty horrendous, and then it got picked up after that. Then it's like, I pretty much played like, I mean, I played a lot of Corki mid, I played a lot of Javan mid, Lee Sin mid, all these kind of things. So I just always had a really weird champion pool where it's like, I'll main a few things, but then I will also have some other like random pocket picks, I guess. I think I've had that in every single season.
Okay, what about Froggen?
Against Froggen, I think against Froggen he's like so hard to kill. Like, I think he's literally the only mid laner that it's nearly impossible for me actually to get a 1v1 kill. So against him I would mostly just pick literally one of like the biggest scaling champion I can actually get, like Azir, Kog'Maw. I would take these champions because I think against Froggen it's a lot farming, like it's a lot of like a farm battle, I feel like, against him. Sometimes you go for these 1v1s, but it's like really short and only a few times, but you mostly go for this farm battle.
I also think as well, if you think about, remember, it's only fans, remember, think that you have to be like the Zed player who gets all the pop-off kills to be good at League of Legends. One thing I actually learned from Froggen, from talking to him and from watching his game, mate, he actually taught me years ago the power of farm, which is that if you farm well, if you can consistently out-farm the other guy and you can take the right waves, when he bases at the wrong time and you just get an extra wave, it's like eventually, dude, by the end of the game, you might have like 5 kills worth of gold that you sort of got for free. Like, you didn't have to take a risk to get the kill. I remember when he said that to me, I started watching these games, dude, and it's sure for the fan they only care about the aggressive move, but like, exactly. There's a chess aspect to the game in that sense. Like, there's a mind game, right?
I mean, I see your point now that like I would be a bit underappreciated with playstyle, but definitely, I mean, people, I mean, if they see like a 40 CS lead, they're not really gonna care. I remember this happened to me in like week 1 in this year. They were like, oh yeah, Larsen had very bad early games, and in one game I had like 40 CS lead at 10 minutes, and was like, okay, yeah, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's just a show of playstyle. I mean, you need to play very disciplined. You need to make sure your team plays very disciplined if you play this playstyle.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Yeah, because that's obviously the downside. And spoiler, if anyone's seen Froggen's career, when he was like the good player, but the rest of the teammates were bad, it's not a very good style to win. Because unfortunately, it's like you're doing a good job getting little leads and building them up. But as you say, if in the other lanes people just int or the game gets taken over, like you can't do anything as one player. You're not going to like 1v9 as an Oriana, like you know.
I mean, you can 1v1, but not if your team is not scaling with you, right?
For many years of my career in esports, it really was just me. I did it all. I was the one person driving myself forwards. I didn't have people around me to help me. But actually, one thing I've learned over the years is the value of a support network. And mine is, of course, the Skrilluminati, my Patreon community. So this video, like many on my channel, was made possible by Ahmed Hadjou, Frisky, Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, Animosity, Bot Pounder 420, Jensen Goh, Tobias Bernasconi, Tosh, Toucan, and as always, you know it, a special thanks goes out to Jerky's Minion. Would you like to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Do you want to ask a question for my regular AMA? Do you want to find out teasers? Who are the guests for the upcoming interviews? I often do. Maybe you want to be part of those long discussions where we can talk about whatever you want in esports. Well, if any of those tickle your fancy, put your money where your mouth is and join the Skrilluminati today. Support my content via the Patreon link in the description box below.